Hi class. This video is the second one of the first unit. The first one dealt with the 1993 World Trade Center bombings and going over the questions that you guys had from your Google form. Several of the questions dealt with what happened between the 1993 bombing and the September 11th bombing. So this actually will help answer a couple of your guys' questions, and other ones, of course, we'll talk about in class. So this is the 1998 embassy buildings, which happened in Kenya and Tanzania in Africa in August of 1998. Most of the damage happened in Nairobi, where the bombs at the embassy building damaged the building, but actually did the most destruction to this nearby Ufundi building. That's where most of the victims were located. And in fact, the explosion from this blast shattered windows with a radius as far as a half-mile away, and which is why most of the wounded actually dealt with eyesight, because the blast and the glass damaged a lot of people's eyes, many permanently blinded from it. And there's also memorials dedicated now to these explosions. This one contains a garden. If you see there, the names of the victims on the wall. And the embassy, after 1998's explosion, didn't reopen again until March of 2003. I know some people asked the questions about the World Trade Center reopening. So this one shows you that this had a bit of a permanent effect as well. So here's another image of the memorial. First, you may need to know what is an embassy. If you don't know, you want to know that. This I got from state.gov, so you don't think I'm plagiarizing here. An embassy is a headquarters of a U.S. government serving in a foreign country. An ambassador is there to represent that country. It's usually in a capital city. I have a picture here of a building in the Netherlands. The U.S. was first embassy was in the Netherlands, and our first ambassador to there was actually John Adams, who eventually became vice president and then president. So who were behind these embassy attacks? Well, you have the Egyptian Islamic Jihad. These were Islamic terrorist group that was around since the late 1970s. And did have connections to Al-Qaeda. This jihadist terrorist organization, their goal was to overthrow the Egyptian government and replace it with an Islamic state. Al-Qaeda translate to the base or the foundation. It was founded in 1998 by Osama bin Laden, who is pictured here. And he really became notorious, if that's the right word, after these bombings. They were created with the mission that they believed there was a Christian-Jewish alliance which was conspiring to destroy Islam. So if you think about what we learned in the 1993 bombing, you see there's a connection there to the motivation. So why did they do this attack? There were 4 people who were arrested who were members of the Islamic Jihad, who were members of it, and they were arrested in Albania for several murders that existed in Egypt, trying to overthrow their government. Beyond the murders, they also tried to have a plot to destroy this picture here. You see a souk. It's a famous marketplace in the center of the Islamic area of Cairo. It's hundreds of years old. It was originally built where some caliphs were buried. Terror attacks later did happen there. In April of 2005, it killed 21 people. One was American. And then there was another terror attack at this marketplace on February 22nd of 2009. And that actually killed a 17-year-old French girl. But now back to the embassy bombings. So on August 7th, there were suicide bombers, and they had trucks full of bombs parked outside the embassy buildings. So there were 2 attacks, and they happened just about simultaneously. 213 people were killed in the Nairobi blast, and 4,000 of them were wounded. So you see where Kenya is, that orange highlighted on the map. Now, there was another blast in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, which is right below it. If you look, it says actually where Lake Victoria is. 11 people were killed there, and 85 were wounded. 12 of them were Americans. All of the Americans were from the Nairobi attack. As a response, President Clinton conducted Operation Infinite Outreach. And keep in mind that August 7th was actually the 8-year anniversary of the day that the U.S. Went to Iraq. So August 20th was the date of Operation Infinite Outreach. It was the first time that the U.S. had a preemptive strike against a non-state actor, which means just because the missile strikes occurred in Sudan and Afghanistan did not mean we were attacking Sudan or Afghanistan. We were attacking groups like Al-Qaeda who were within there. Chemical weapon bases, training facilities. They hoped to kill Osama bin Laden. He was not where they thought he was at the time. And that's another reason why he sort of became more, unfortunately, famous, I guess, after these bombings. There was a mixed response from the international community about these missile attacks. The UN did condemn the bombings, of course, and it did sort of change and maybe even improve, if you want to say, the U.S.-Kenya relationship as we work together to fight terrorists. I have a picture on the corner of the Soldiers Medal. I just had a little personal story. A West Point classmate of mine, her name is Allison Jones. She was the only second cadet in history to receive this because that summer she was spending an internship in Kenya at the Nairobi embassy. She was not present when the bombing occurred, but she was nearby. But she did go to help rescue people. Most of the people she encountered, unfortunately, were deceased. But she did take part of a beam and made a splint and helped someone whose leg was injured so that they could be taken to safety. So that's a medal that's given to soldiers during peacetime, because even though this attack occurred, there wasn't an official status of war at the time. So let's think about some connections as to why we're learning about this in this unit. Al-Qaeda is now escalating in the war on terror. More attention is now given to bin Laden. The CIA and the FBI in their response now becomes a bit more under the spotlight, which you see will happen after 9/11. And it does show some vulnerability, how open we are, whether at home or abroad, to terror attacks. And does it start to change the mindset of people? Does it start to change maybe security issues? Does it change what we're worried about Al-Qaeda yet? Or does it take 9/11 to really make that fear true? So if you have any questions, please, once again, go ahead and write it in the Google form at the end. We can go over them. I know last class I told you guys that when the bombing occurred, the music at the time, the top song was Dream Lover by Mariah Carey. Here, I'll tell you guys, if anyone knows Brandy and Monica, The Boy Is Mine, that was the top song on the charts this week. So put a little bit into perspective from songs you may have heard before. All right, so I'll see you next class. And let me know if you have any questions on this.